Hello everybody, Liddy here, and welcome to the finale of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. In the previous video, we conquered the final dungeon in the game, and today we're going to do everything we need to do to finish this game. Hooray! First, we're gonna burn everything! Everything must burn! If you know something different about the video quality, I'm actually using a different type of camera, because the camera that I usually use to record, I actually lost it. It's missing forever. So I'm using a different camera to record the finale for this video and stuff. What we're going to be doing now is that we're going to be going back to Mabe Village because there's a few things that I want to do before we go wake up the Windfist. This isn't exactly required, but it will make the final area in the game like a lot easier. So what you want to do is you want to go over here as usual or something like that. Also, I recommend if you've been using the red tunic throughout this game, I highly recommend you go change your tunic to blue, because the blue tunic is very useful in the final boss because the final boss can be really challenging if you don't know what you're doing. So I highly recommend you use the blue tunic. It geared you. Someday you will leave this island. I just know it in my heart. Don't ever forget me. If you do, I'll never forgive you. Marin's awesome. I think before you enter Turtle Rock, if you talk to her, she'll say something along the lines of that she made a wish to the Windfist, but she's going to keep it a secret. That's actually a mistake on the developer's part because he already told you that she wants to make a wish to become a seagull. This right here, you want to write this down because this is a very important code for the final boss of the game. And as we go across Tall Tall Mountain one final time, I just want to say that I've had a really fun time doing this Let's Play. I've said this before. I've said this a lot of times before, but this is my favorite game ever, and I've been wanting to do a Let's Play of this game for so long that it just feels really sad to know that this game is that we're pretty much done with this Let's Play. But now what we have to do is that we have to go wake up the Windfist. The time has come. The Windfist await. Enter the egg. Hoot hoot. Windfist's egg. And now it's time to go face whatever lies beyond this mysterious place. This area right here, this has 4 combinations for how to get through this area. The first, you go between left, up, and right in a specific order. I'm gonna have every possible solution written in the description below. Because I just want to point out that just because this is a combination on my game does not mean it'll be the same on yours. There are 4 possible combinations as to what could be the combination to get through the Windfist egg. We were born of nightmares to take over this world. We made the Windfist sleep endlessly. If the Windfist doesn't wake up, this island will never disappear. We would have been the masters of this place. But you had to come here and disrupt our plans. You can never defeat us. Let's rumble! Oh no, it's a scary demon thing. This is the final boss of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This guy has 6 phases. The first phase, I know his name his official name is Giant Zol, but I always call him Giant Choo Choo because he looks like a giant choo choo. Alright, now we are facing the nightmare of the nightmare's form of Aghanim or Agahim or however you pronounce his name. This guy is based off of one of the major villains from The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which is the game that takes place in the timeline before this game. Now, Oracle of Seasons and Ages takes place in between those two games, but the nightmares that we face throughout the entire game, like the boss of Faith Sign, for example, those are possibly nightmare incarnations of the bosses from those games, which I always really thought was interesting. But this is Akanim. He was a really large enemy in A Link to the Past. He has 3 basic enemies. He has 3 basic attacks. He'll throw a magical tennis ball at you, which you need to use your sword to deflect against. He has that weird cross thing that he'll throw at you. That is impossible to avoid. Well, actually, no. That is impossible to deflect back at him. You have to jump over it to avoid it. And he has one other move that is impossible to avoid no matter what you do. He'll throw a lightning bolt at you. Luckily, this move is impossible. This move is very rare to happen. So just keep that in mind. He'll rarely use it. This is the nightmare incarnation of Moldorm, and let me just say, it makes perfect sense why he's here because the gamers themselves are bound to have nightmares of this guy from A Link to the Past because of how often he puts Link down to the lower floors of the dungeon. This right here, this is the nightmare incarnation of Ganondorf, Link's ultimate nightmare. Ganondorf, he will throw bats at you that are on fire and stuff, and he'll also throw a spinning axe of death at you. This is the reason why I recommend that you use the blue tunic before you come into this place. Because, well, it will take less time with the red tunic because you'll have more damage output. I recommend using the blue tunic because you have a higher defense, and if you already have all the secret sea cells, then you already have a better sword. So I'm not entirely sure if getting the sea cell sword would really help you. If you have the red tunic. I recommend getting the blue tunic because Ganondorf can do a lot of damage, and that's not really fun. Yeah, this is Link's ultimate nightmare. Ganondorf is like the villain of the Legend of Zelda series. He's pretty much the equivalent to Bowser from Super Mario. And actually, come to think of it, this is the first time he's ever appeared on my channel because the other 2 Zelda games I've Let's Played, Four Sword and Majora's Mask, Vaati was the villain of Four Sword, and Majora was the villain of Majora's Mask. All I'm going to say right now is that the next Zelda game I have planned kind of has Ganondorf in it, but not really. That's all I'm going to say right now. But anyway, this is Lanmola, or something. Very easy to defeat. You just need to throw an arrow at him. And this is Diesel, or Diesel, or something. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name either, but I always like to pronounce it Diesel because it sounds epic. This is the nightmare itself. This is what the nightmare looks like. And what I always like to think about was that this is the nightmare that could have happened, because he looks a lot like Vaati from the Four Sword games, and I don't know, he just looks like Vaati, so I always like to think of him as the nightmare that could have happened. What you want to do is that obviously there's an eyeball, and in the magical land of the Legend of Zelda series, if you see an eyeball, it must die. If you have a boomerang on you, you can throw the boomerang at him. That would defeat him with 1 hit. So, in some ways, he's the easiest boss in this game. You also want to use a feather to jump over his attacks. Sword beams are useless against this guy, so you either want to use a bow and arrow, or a boomerang. If you run out of arrows, then go for the boomerang. But if you don't have the boomerang, then what I recommend you do is I recommend using the frog song to warp yourself out of here. Um, but yeah, there's not much else to say. Just keep shooting the arrows at him, and you will eventually defeat him. But if you want to take him out quickly, you can use the boomerang against him too. I don't like using the boomerang against him because I just like to make this boss. Yes, we defeated him! This side is going to disappear. A world is going to disappear. A world. We defeated him. We finished this last play. I am so happy. Clap for joy. They gear to you. You have beaten all the nightmares. Climb the stairs before you. I don't see any stairs. Oh, there's some right there. Am I in heaven? Those clouds are so pretty. They look like cotton candy. Hoot, young lad, I mean, Lidgear to you, the hero. You have defeated the nightmares. You have proven your wisdom, courage, and power. Da 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 da. As part of the Wind Fizz's spirit, I am the guardian of his dream world. But one day, the nightmares entered the dream world and began wreaking havoc. Then you, Late-Geared You, came to rescue the island. I have always trusted in your courage to turn back the nightmares. Thank you, Late-Geared You. My work is done. The Windfist will wake soon. Goodbye, Hoot. I am the Windfist. Long has been my slumber. In my dreams, an egg appeared and was surrounded by an island with people, animals, an entire world. But verily, it be the nature of dreams to end. When I dost awaken, coldness will be gone. Only the memory of this dreamland will exist in the waking world. Someday, thou may recall this island. That memory must be the real dream. Come, Lady you, let us awaken together. Play the 8 instruments. Play the song of awakening.